Have you ever really taken a moment and thought about how you plan your lessons? Think about it. How do you plan your lessons? Take a moment and write a brief description of your process. Perhaps you just go by the expected state content standards. Maybe you use your textbook's pacing chart and simply teach a lesson straight from the text. Do you teach the lessons that were given to you by the retiring teacher down the hall? Or you might just plan your lessons during your morning shower. Think about this question. Have you ever thought about teaching a lesson with the desired results you're assessing in mind? What's your lesson's big idea? What transferable knowledge have you accessed within your students, and what transferable knowledge are you teaching your students? What are your established goals? Do you have essential questions in your lessons? What am I talking about? I'm talking about understanding by design, or UBD. UBD is a pedagogical philosophy of backwards mapping in lesson design. The technique of teaching what you assess, not assessing what you teach. Let me demonstrate to you a short lesson that incorporates some of the major tenets of desired results. Take a moment and pay close attention to my students' responses to a set of photographs.
All right. Got it. You're recording.
Where am I starting?
Start.
Where?
How do you feel about this photo?
Okay. How do you feel about this photo?
Wow, I really want to go camping and climbing. Is that Yosemite? I don't know. That's a really pretty place.
Ew, yuck, bugs, no shower, gross.
All right, how about this photo now?
Ooh, fishing cabin. Is it summertime yet?
I can still camp, but, you know, I don't want to mess up with this guy's fishing cabin.
Sure. Now what are your thoughts when you see this photo?
Wow, a lot more people can go enjoy nature.
I don't really know if I'm allowed to camp anymore, but it's so pretty there.
All those are important things to consider. Now, last one. What are your thoughts when you see this photo?
That's 200 rooms at 100 a night, plus a nightclub. I can retire at 50 now.
What happened to all the animals and what? That's nature. You can't do that in the middle of nature. Like, nobody can enjoy that really beautiful space anymore.
Okay. So you've heard some of my students' responses. But how is this lesson utilizing desired results? And more important, what is it? Understanding by design is focusing on your desired results or teaching thinking skills that are universal in application. It's not just teaching a set of facts and needless one-time bits of information that your class will never use again. It's using a big idea. It's making sure you have transferable understandings. It's having essential questions in your lessons. Lastly, it's about making sure you establish goals. Let's break it down point by point. Big ideas. A big idea is a targeted statement that is meant to spark meaningful connections with both previous lessons and future ones as well. A big idea should provoke inquiry by your students, and it is designed to promote the development of higher order thinking skills within your students. It should start a discussion amongst the students as to its meaning within a particular context. It should be both universal in application and timeless in its scope. Think of a statement that is not only intradisciplinary, but interdisciplinary as well. Here's one. Creativity is dependent on curiosity and context. Think how that big idea incorporates each of those tenets I just discussed. And then think about how you could have used that big idea in one of your previous lessons.
Transferability means that the students can take the big ideas from the lesson to other subjects into everyday life. So in our example, with the pictures, the big idea was that in order to get something, another thing must be sacrificed. This big idea is transferable to history, for example, because students will learn that in order to have services like Medicare, citizens have to sacrifice their personal money in the form of taxes. The idea would be transferable to daily life in many ways. For example, in the recent debates in Oxnard about how to use the Ormond Beach wetlands area, some people want to preserve the nature there, and some want to use it to put in low-income housing.
Essential questions have several key components. Relevancy. Are the questions relevant? Clearly, this question about the pictures was relevant in an academic sense as far as construction, architecture, even science, and its ethical impacts of development on nature. This may be relevant in a historical sense in conversating about war, not only academically, but in a real-world situation as well. For example, perhaps a student wants an iPod, but perhaps a student would like to have a new iPod, but mom also has to pay for dinner. This gets students to think about what their initial response to something may have been and how they may possibly change their mind. This inspires students to think logically and to reason and to provide justifications for their perspectives on an issue, regardless of the question. Regardless, the question needs to keep the student thinking and moving forward in their thought process. The question may or may not sound essential upon first hearing it, but its intent and purpose is what makes it essential or not. For example, this first question, does development affect the landscape? Initially seems like it perhaps is not essential because the yes or no answer would satisfy this question. However, reworded, how does development affect the landscape from the perspective of, does inspire a student to a deeper level of thinking. And this transfers to establish goals.
Establishing goals. Your goals should include the three following things: understanding, knowledge, and skills. Understanding the results of the attempts by the students to make sense of the assigned work. Knowledge, comprehending the facts and concepts. Skills, techniques and approaches to understand a certain final objective and may involve practicing to obtain a certain level of skill. So you may ask yourself, given the goals, what performance evidence signifies that they have been met?
I hope you're starting to not only understand UBD, but how easy it is to incorporate into your subject area as well. This pedagogy is truly interdisciplinary, and in fact, it's sort of the whole idea behind it. It's not dogmatic or narrowly focused towards a singular point. It's about changing the focus of your lessons so that you're thinking about the end product first and foremost. It's about having a big idea, making sure you have transferable understandings and essential questions in your lessons. It is about establishing learning goals. If you can incorporate UBD into your classroom, your students will start thinking like interdisciplinarians, and they will start to think about how they think. Now that you have a working understanding of desired results as it applies to UBD teaching practices, read over the prompt and answer the questions. Type your ideas and email them to acecharterhighalex.com.